Daniel O'Neill is a YouTuber from the UK with a channel called English Woodsman, where he's been uploading videos of his wild camping, stealth camping, and woodland camping trips in the UK for almost 10 years. Most of the channel's videos feature Daniel reviewing camping gear for his viewers and showing footage of his adventures in the great outdoors. For the most part, they're pretty tame, but in August 2023, he uploaded a video of his camping trip in the woodlands close to his home, and the footage is pretty disturbing. The first part of the video pretty much just shows Daniel walking through the woods and talking to his subscribers, eating berries, and pointing out the sights on the way to the campsite. At several points along the way, he pauses to mention the footprints and garbage he sees lying on the trail, indicating other people had been there in the last few days.
Okay.
Someone's been here. There's a lot of rubbish around here.
These woods really look deep,
Yeah, look at the
and
state of this.
how do people
Does get
actually
used, doesn't it?
go out?
After about a 20-minute walk, he sits down at a clearing where he
Understanding.
plans to set up camp for the night and leans back on a tree to eat his noodles as he talks to the camera. It's not until around 25 minutes into the video that things start to get seriously disturbing for Daniel.
I'm going to be out Friday night, but I'm going away Saturday, so I've got a bit of a drive as well. So I didn't want to be tired, and it's going to throw it down Friday night as well. And rain camping is really good.
Oh yeah, those are footsteps. It just sounds like around the corner or something like that. Is there something right
Not a bad trip.
there? I don't know. Right behind us.
Hello?
Leaves.
Even though some pretty human-like footsteps could be heard right behind Daniel, as soon as he turns around to scan his environment, there's nobody in sight. What's most
It did.
disturbing is that as soon as he turned around and yelled hello, the footsteps immediately stopped. For the next few minutes, he sits down and tries to regain his
It was
composure
not
as he sips his coffee and eats his
immediately.
noodles, but
It was
things only
after
continue to get
some
even more
time.
creepy as the sun begins to set.
Yes, of course. We have this free entertainment.
There's that noise again now.
Yes. But now it sounds
Hello?
like more distant instead of being more close.
Hello?
Could
You
that
got to get rid of
be
that.
a bear? Because if it is a
There's
human,
nobody here.
somebody would
About
respond.
40 minutes into the video, the footstep noises can be heard again, and this time it sounds like they're getting closer to Daniel. By this point, most people would have hightailed it out of there without any hesitation, but Daniel decides to sit back down to finish his dinner as he tries to calm his nerves for the second time. Amazingly, a few minutes later, it almost seems like he completely forgets about the footsteps and manages to think about less disturbing things, which is honestly pretty impressive. But
How
as
can
darkness
one?
sets in, the eerie footsteps start up again.
How can he?
I'm going to be honest. I can't stay here now. I'm going to be a wimp. I don't care if people call me a wimp in the comments, but I can't stay here. I'm too unsettled. I'm nervous. I've done camping like this load of times.
Of course. Just a momento. Uno momento.
But
Understandably, after this third incident, Daniel decides to head somewhere else for the night to play it safe. It's hard to know what exactly was making those sounds, but because they sounded very similar to human footsteps, it's possible that Daniel was being stalked by someone in the woods. This is
That
obviously incredibly dangerous, as you can never really trust someone's intentions when you're in such a vulnerable position all by
that
yourself in
would
unknown territory. It was either
that
that or an
would be
animal walking
okay.
through the grass, but because Daniel mentioned the grass was a little wet and wouldn't have made that dry sound if an animal stepped on it, this is pretty unlikely. Also, many people in the comments mentioned that no animal walks that uniform and steady. They stop,
Mm-hmm.
go, and change pace constantly. Either way, it's a good thing he decided to leave, because who knows what could have happened to Daniel that night.
If there was a human stalker who was stalking him, then some of us might want to think that it is okay for a human stalker to stalk somebody. But even like he reached there in the evening time, and then the sun goes down, and like the nighttime approaches, and he's laid down his bed and everything. How can you actually do that? Like when you're so much terrified, and we're not talking about the forests of India. We're talking about the forests of America, where there can be many lunatics on the loose in the forest. Like they could be people belonging to some cults or some psychopaths or something like that. Or maybe if you're lucky enough, a Yeti. Not a Yeti, a Bigfoot. But jokes aside, you should not camp your way down there, even after the lights out.
One of the most annoying things to me is spam texts and phone calls. You would actually be surprised by the amount of times I get interrupted recording these videos by phone calls from random numbers. Well, I did some research and uncovered that a lot of times these spammers are able to get our personal info, email addresses, and phone numbers because
Mm-hmm.
big companies can't keep our data safe from data breaches and hacks. You may not have heard, but back in May, Ticketmaster was hacked and the data of over 500 million people were put up for email addresses, phone numbers, and credit card data. At best, this was going to lead to more spam calls, texts, and Ticketmaster doing about it. Absolutely nothing. They said they didn't think the hack would have a material impact on our overall business when it's compromised. That's why I use Aura, the sponsor of this video. Aura, it gives me fast fraud alerts from data VPN and all this in one app at enough worry because Aura is only vulnerable to data breach for free. Also linked. The Rampant Range is part of a front range of the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, made up of almost entirely.
Why am I again and again getting cut off? Wait a minute.
But over the past few years, there's been a pretty alarming trend on the rise, with random people
Look
setting
at
up
this
wires on trees at just about head
forest.
height in an effort to seriously
These are
injure bikers on the
deep
trail.
woods,
In
and people like
2019, a
people.
post
Okay,
describing
if
this
you're
terrifying
doing
trend was
this,
uploaded to
it's okay.
Facebook. And disturbingly, the uploader mentioned that one of his high school friends had lost his life as a result of running into a similar wire on a trail.
Okay.
Immediately, people jumped into the comments to point out how incredibly messed up it would be to do something like this, and how this kind of evil needs to be categorized as attempted murder if the suspects
Wire
are ever
trail
caught.
kill.
A couple of years
Okay.
before that post was made, in 2017, two motorbike riders uploaded a video to YouTube of their encounter with a similar wire, and although nothing happened to them, it was a very close call.
Show me. Show me. Oh my god. The person needs to be. It is planted. It is planted to actually get someone. Why would someone do that? It's evil
When these wires
intention.
are set up off-trail, it can be hard to tell whether they were placed there out of malice or if a random camper or farmer placed the wires there to hang up clothes or something similar. But in
In the
cases like
in the
these where the wires
middle
are
of
specifically
the
placed
road
on the trail, there's really only one reason people would do that, and that's to
to
bring
hang
serious harm to bikers for some reason.
to
Possibly
hang
they're annoyed with the
clothes in the middle
constant
of the
loud
road.
sound of the bikes near their property or
What a
something
lame
else.
excuse.
But hopefully more measures can be
It's a
taken in the
malicious
future to prevent more
practice.
people from getting hurt, especially because it's not uncommon to hear about motorbikers and snowmobilers losing their lives over this kind of stuff.
Honor
How,
200
how
series.
can you even say that?
AI-empowered magic.
How can you even say that they don't lose
This
life over
audio
this kind
was
of stuff?
uploaded to YouTube by a user named Forest Number 21. He recorded it around 2 a.m. on
Behind his
December
house
2014. The
at
uploader
2
lives in a
a.m.
forest, and he mentioned that the noises in the audio were coming from deep in the woods behind
And
his
you have
house.
internet connection in the forest. Good. Okay. We couldn't
It's hard to make
actually.
out what the child is yelling, but after listening closely, several users jumped in the comments to point out that you can also hear an adult voice yelling, "Where are you?" In addition to the young female voice making most of the noise, this quieter, more subtle male voice that can also be heard in the audio only makes the whole incident that much more disturbing. Near the end of the video, the uploader mentions that after that night, he checked the news every day to see if he could find some explanation for the screams, but he never did. The fact
This
that the
kind of
screaming was
stuff does
captured at
happen.
around 2 a.m. in the freezing cold weather and in the middle of the woods indicates that the uploader could have genuinely recorded something pretty sinister taking place that night. It's hard to tell why the uploader would record and upload the audio instead of immediately calling the police after hearing a female voice in such obvious distress, but at this point there's not much that can be done about it. And who knows, maybe the uploader did call the police. There wasn't much context given in the video's description. We can only hope that whatever problem happened that night was eventually solved, but based on the shrillness of the screams and the strangeness of the whole situation, we probably won't ever be able to know for sure.
Obviously. Or maybe
Lisa
if you
is a
would
life
track
coach and
that
YouTuber who
YouTuber and
often
ask
uploads
him.
videos of what it's like living in her van and traveling the country on her own. One
Oh,
afternoon in 2022, Lisa had
nomadic
parked her van on the side of the road and left the side door of her van
people.
open while she cooked her dinner inside,
Normal people
when
turning into
suddenly a
nomads.
sketchy looking guy approached her, poked his head in her van without her permission, and started asking her some pretty bizarre questions in French, a language Lisa doesn't speak. When she mentioned
How
she
do you
didn't
know
understand
it
what he
was
was saying, he
French?
pulled out a translator app to try to communicate with her, which obviously made
Or
her
was
pretty
it typical
uncomfortable, especially since
French?
she wasn't interested in talking to him in the first place after he invaded her personal space. After watching the guy struggle to use Google Translate for a few minutes, her personal
I don't know.
space. After one wasn't interested in talking to him in the first place after he invaded her personal space. After watching the guy struggle to use Google Translate for a few minutes, Lisa decided she'd had enough and shut the side door in his face, also closing the curtain to make sure the guy got the hint. Strangely, for over half an hour, the guy then stood outside in the rain and tinkered with the translator app to try to communicate with Lisa, even after she made it more than obvious that she wanted nothing to do with him.
Maybe the guy was desperate for help, speaking strange language in a strange land. French in America. Maybe he was desperate for help and we just shut him
Okay, he
off.
just moved even closer so that I can't move out and so that I can't go forward.
And then he
Please
backs
leave.
off his car
Please leave,
and
you
he
sketchy,
leaves.
sketchy person. Please leave.
Are French people that weird? I don't know.
With a very shady demeanor, the man snuck into the bushes and pretty much just stalked Lisa from a distance, as if he thought she couldn't see him. As the sun began to set, Lisa kept an eye on the guy outside to make sure he didn't try to get close to her again, but the man just kept on bringing his car closer to her van and blocking her exit in different ways for more than half an hour.
This guy is really starting to freak me out.
Can you just.
It's been like a half an hour and he just keeps on moving his vehicle so he can see in my van here. And
There are some pretty.
anyways, it's 7 o'clock, 7 p.m.
Fortunately, just as darkness had begun to set in, a family in an RV pulled up right behind Lisa and spent the night in the same parking lot as her, which comforted her enough to stay there the entire evening. Disturbingly, the guy left soon after. When he saw the other family in the RV was also still in the parking lot, he left and didn't come back. The next morning, Lisa left early and never saw the guy again. It's hard to tell what the guy's exact intentions were, but based on his overall sketchy demeanor and questionable behavior, they couldn't have been anything good. The one thing we can be sure about is that it's a good thing the other family in the RV arrived at the parking lot when they did. Otherwise, who knows what the man would have done to Lisa.
Wouldn't he would have done it already? Or is he a slow
In May
psychopath?
2014, an Imager user uploaded a blog post where he talked about the time he went to visit a friend in northern Germany. According to the uploader, his
Okay.
friend told him about these pipes that he had found in the woods near his house that stuck up out of the ground like periscopes. Apparently, his friend and his siblings played near the pipes as kids and knew that there were bunkers hidden below them, but their parents never allowed them to get near them out of concern for their safety. During the visit narrated in the blog post, the uploader and his friend decided to check out the pipes and finally go down into the bunkers that they never had permission to explore when they were younger, and they
Look at the
found some pretty
beautiful
disturbing
forest.
stuff.
And
A
if you're
few hundred
walking
feet
through
away
such
from
a
the trees, they
forest,
found the entrance to the bunker covered with a loosely placed piece of wood that they easily removed with a crowbar. Once
if you
inside,
found
all they could see
this,
were these long, seemingly endless hospital-like hallways that extended
oh
for
my god,
thousands of
that
feet into
is
the
creepy.
woods. As they ventured further and further into the maze of tunnels, they found graffiti on some of the walls, indicating they weren't the first people to get the idea to explore the underground bunkers. To the explorers' horror, one of the walls deep inside the tunnels had the word "help" in German graffitied all over it. It's possible that it was just sprayed on there by another group of teens trying to be funny, but the
Frank.
eerie nature of the bunker coupled with the general state of disarray really makes you wonder if something more sinister took place down there at some point, possibly even written by German soldiers in the later parts of World War II. As they point, the state of disarray really makes you wonder if something more sinister, the eerie nature of the bunker coupled with the general state of disarray really makes you wonder if something more sinister took place down there at some point, possibly even written by German
Look at
soldiers in the
that.
later parts of World War II. As they
It's
traveled deeper into the bunker, they found some
completely.
more disturbing graffiti, with one of the eeriest messages reading, "Hello Satan, I love you." Obviously, that's not the kind of message you want to see in a tunnel system like this, but the two friends decided to keep on exploring anyway. After several hours down in the bunker, they ended up finding tons of more twisting, winding hallways, flooded rooms with old machines, and dark, narrow corridors that reached dead ends, but nothing more disturbing than the graffiti they had found a few hours earlier. The explorers managed to make it out of there safely and didn't go back there again.
How creepy. Like
In the summer
above
of
it's the
2016, reports started
forest,
surfacing that people were finding
and
dangerous
below are the bunkers been flooded with nasty sewage water and all that creepy environment as if an abandoned hospital or even a facility of some kind that should send chills down your spine.
booby traps along a very well-known hiking trail in the High Mountain Park Preserve in Wayne, New Jersey.
Everything is about this forest. Look at that.
As
Six,
per the
obviously,
police
it's
reports, the
six
traps
disturbing forest encounters caught on camera.
mostly consisted of boards with nails sticking out of them, barbed wire, broken bottles placed along the trails behind or near rocks or logs, and other treacherous materials. As more and more complaints started coming in,
Okay, somebody steps on it and
police warned people to keep an eye out for the traps and even organized cleanup efforts to keep hikers safe during their treks. What's most disturbing is that these traps were clearly placed there to hurt people, as there's really no other reason to put nails and barbed wire on the ground in the middle of such a popular hiking trail. The fact that someone would
when
take the
PD.
time to get out on the trail, build a booby
What's the
trap
full
in
form of
such detail, and
PD?
place it there with the intention to do harm
I
to
know
other people in their
PhD,
beds
but
is
what is
honestly pretty
PD?
messed up. But it didn't take the cops too long to make an educated guess as to
CBS
who was
New York
behind the whole thing. Although they never
from
found the
New
individual
Jersey.
suspects responsible for placing the traps on the trail, the sheriff's department determined that the traps had probably something to do with the feud between hikers and bikers who had been fighting over use of the trail for decades. According to many nearby residents, it's common for bikers on the trail to speed past the hikers without ringing their bells or announcing their presence, which has led to several injuries and rising tensions between the two groups over the years. Still, it's hard to imagine that someone would take the issue to the point of trying to harm an entire group of people so maliciously with such brutal methods. Fortunately, no one was hurt as a result of the traps, but the suspects responsible were never found.
It's quite obvious. It is 110% obvious why such things would happen. Thank you all for watching, and I'll meet you in the next much more interesting video. Bye bye.